My mentor destroyed me on stage and had no idea who I walked in with. Have you ever trusted someone who built your career and then crushed you in public like you were nothing? Can you imagine your most humiliating moment turning into their loudest downfall? He was a legend. The kind of man who decided who got booked and who got erased. He controlled everything: my contracts, my access, my reputation, even what I was allowed to wear in the room. And I broke his one sacred rule: no personal attachments, especially not with anyone below the level. Then came the night with 1,000 seats, cameras, sponsors, a live stream, and he smiled like it was for my own good while he carved me open. He pointed at me and said, "She tried to play honest, but honesty doesn't sell tickets." People laughed, not because it was funny, but because it's terrifying to stay silent. I stood under those lights and realized he was burying my name. He didn't know it would become his biggest mistake. Hi, I'm Naomi Carter. I'm 28. I'm from Portland, Oregon. And I'm a sound engineer and sound designer. The person you barely see, but without me, nothing sounds alive. If you're watching, hit subscribe, because the way this flips later still gives me chills. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there right now? I read every single comment. And tell me honestly, would you stay inside a system that feeds you, or walk away even if it tries to break you? Now rewind 6 months. To the night I realized my life wasn't mine. There are buildings in London that don't smell like money. They smell like power. Old leather chairs, polished wood, quiet carpets that make your footsteps sound like an apology. That was my mentor's office. Floor-to-ceiling windows, the Thames below, tour posters on the walls, framed photos of famous people smiling beside him like they'd touched heaven. His name was Graham Vale, producer, festival gatekeeper, a man whose handshake could change your future. He sat me down without offering water, without offering warmth. Just a thin folder with my name and a date stamped on it. He opened it like a judge. "Naomi," he said, not looking me in the eye, "you're talented, but talent is raw material. I turn it into a product." Something in me always rang when he said product. He slid the pages toward me. Schedules, sponsor logos, requirements. "Next season, you'll be lead sound engineer on the main stage. This is your jump." But jumps happen on command. "On whose?" I asked before I could stop myself. He smiled like adults do when kids say something cute. "Mine, and the people who pay." He leaned closer. His watch was heavy on his wrist, like time belonged to him. "You'll show up at the right events, with the right people. You'll say what's written, and you will not form unnecessary connections." "I'm here to work," I said, "not live someone else's life." His voice went softer and somehow more dangerous. "Sweetheart, life is other people's expectations. Smart people choose who they belong to. What if I don't want to belong to anyone?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just delivered his ideology like a sentence. "Feelings are a luxury for people who've already won. You haven't won yet." I met Maya in the last place he'd expect. Not a rooftop party, not a VIP lounge. It was on the edge of Camden, in a tiny repair workshop that smelled like hot metal and Earl Grey. My old field recorder had died, the same one I used on my first gigs, and I couldn't afford a new one. Behind the counter was a woman in a work apron, short, dark hair, hands smudged with graphite dust. She looked up at me and didn't look through me the way London people do when you're not wearing the right coat. She looked straight at me. "That's not a device," she said, lifting my recorder carefully, like it was alive. "That's a survival habit." I laughed. The first time I'd laughed in weeks. We talked about how sound can save you when everything else collapses, about how silence has different flavors, about how most people listen to status, not words. And I caught myself thinking something that startled me. For the first time, someone was seeing the real me. Not Graham's project, not a promising girl, just me. On the wall, I noticed a small engraved plate with initials, MH, and beside it, an old badge with the logo of a major arts foundation. Maya moved a box in front of it a little too fast. I didn't ask. Not then. 2 weeks later, Graham got attentive, not kinder. Attentive, like a predator. At first, it was harmless. "You're slow to respond lately, Naomi." Then casual questions. "Where were you last night after rehearsal?" "Why did you change your route home?" One morning, I walked into the office and found a printed photo on my desk. Me stepping out of Maya's workshop. The camera was far away, grainy, but my scarf gave me away. Graham didn't yell. He never needed to. He just spoke calmly. "Who is she?" "A person," I said. "For you, she's a person. For me, she's a risk." He opened a file, the workshop address, the leaseholder, Maya's name, a neat little summary. "You think I don't see," he said. "You think you're the first to decide love is a way out? This isn't an escape." "Then prove it," he said, quiet as ice. "End it." I felt something clamp around my chest. "No." He nodded, like he'd entered my answer into a spreadsheet. "Then it'll hurt more." A month later, Maya offered me something that made my knees go weak, not because it was romantic, but because it was brave. We were sitting on her rooftop, watching the city glow in the rain, and she said, "Move in with me. Not because it's what people do, because I can see them squeezing the life out of you. I want you to have somewhere you can breathe." I said yes, too fast. It was my forbidden decision, stepping out of the perfect cage Graham built for me, choosing myself. And then something strange happened. Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and didn't answer. Her face tightened into something sharp, controlled. "Who is that?" I asked. "Work," she said. "I'll explain later." But as she put the phone down, I saw the notification flash across the screen. Board call. 10 p.m. What kind of workshop comes with a board call? I didn't ask, because I was afraid to break the first real thing I'd felt in a long time. The system attacked quietly, like frost. First, venue managers stopped replying. Then my name vanished from 2 rehearsals due to technical changes. Then my corporate card got declined at a coffee shop. Declined. The terminal beeped like it was judging me. People in line stared like I'd stolen oxygen. I called Graham. He answered immediately, like he'd been waiting. "You wanted freedom?" he said. "Freedom is paying for your own life." My friends went busy. Group chats went silent. Invitations disappeared. And for the first time, I hit the question I used to laugh at when people called it deep. If they take my status, who am I? Maya held me together. She made toast at midnight, listened to me spiral. Didn't pity me. Just stayed. But sometimes she spoke with a kind of certainty that didn't belong to a repair shop. "It's going to pass," she'd say. "The system has a weak spot." "What weak spot?" She'd dodge it. The place where they don't expect the truth. Then came the public humiliation. It happened at the annual Sound and Culture Summit, a massive industry event. Stage lights, panels, sponsors in the front row, journalists with microphones, cameras streaming to thousands. Somehow, I was still on the schedule, as a success story. I was supposed to talk about inspiration, teamwork, the journey. When I stepped onto that stage, I saw Graham in the front row. He smiled like a proud father at graduation. I started my talk. 1 minute in, Graham stood up. He took the mic from the moderator without asking, like the room belonged to him. "Sorry to interrupt," he said warmly, "but I can't let the audience be misled." Silence thickened. "Naomi isn't here as a professional," he continued. "She's here as an example of what happens when someone puts personal fantasy above discipline." Someone gasped. Someone smirked. Cameras zoomed tighter. "She violated her contract," he said. "She hid relationships, and she tried to use this platform to legitimize her choices." Then he turned toward me. "Tell them, Naomi," he said softly. "Tell them you're no longer part of our team." My knees trembled, but I stayed standing. I took a breath so deep it felt like I was about to dive underwater. "I used to believe if I was perfect, they wouldn't touch me," I said into the microphone. "If I was convenient, they'd keep me." I looked out at the faces, the cameras, the rows of people who were pretending this was just another panel. "But I learned something," I said. "When someone controls your life, they're not protecting you, they're owning you." I turned to Graham. "You taught me how to sound right," I said, "but I learned how to hear a lie." I lifted my chin. "I choose dignity. I choose being a human, not a product." And then I let the words land. "If you came here to watch a tragedy," I said, "you picked the wrong story." Quick pause, because I need to know. Did you expect that? Comment shock if you didn't see it coming or knew it if you called it. And hit like and subscribe, because the twist after this made even me say out loud, "No way." After the summit, everything got worse. Jobs disappeared. My profile in industry circles felt branded with an invisible warning: risky. I started doing small club gigs again, hauling cables, counting coins in my pocket, and realizing I was still alive. Maya helped, but she started having strange meetings. She'd leave early wearing a structured coat, not an apron. She'd come back late, exhausted but focused. Sometimes I'd hear her on the phone in the other room. "No, he can't figure it out. Yes, the documents are ready." At the main session, when I asked, she'd look at me and say, "I'm doing what I have to do. Trust me a little longer." And I did. Because she was the only person who never tried to make me smaller. The main event wasn't a concert. It was a public forum, the Arts Integrity Forum, where they were announcing the results of an independent investigation into corruption in cultural grants and festival funding. Graham walked in like royalty, dark suit, calm smile, lawyers at his side. He was sure he'd won. He'd already removed me. I walked in with Maya. Simple dress, no brand, no entourage, just a straight spine. In the audience were foundation reps, journalists, people with badges that sounded scarier than any title: oversight, compliance, ethics. On stage, the host said, "Today we'll present new transparency rules," and name the individuals who have manipulated funding for years. Graham didn't blink. He watched like it was entertainment for people beneath him. And then the host announced, "For the presentation of the findings, please welcome Dr. Maya Hargreaves, chair of the Interim Arts Ethics Commission. My chest went hollow. Maya stood up beside me, and in that moment, she wasn't the girl from the workshop. She was someone the room obeyed before she even spoke. She walked to the stage, clicked a remote, and the screen lit up with charts, money trails, shell companies, fake vendors, the same names looping back like a... Mr. Vale, she said evenly, you've treated art like your private kingdom, but in these documents, art is called something else. Public trust. Graham's smile finally cracked. Maya clicked again, and there it was. My contract. Graham's signature. And an appendix in fine print. Clauses that banned me from taking work without his approval. Penalties designed like a debt trap. This isn't a contract, Maya said. It's coercion. Graham shot up. Who do you think you are? Maya turned to the room. I'm the person signing the motion to temporarily suspend Mr. Vale from all grant and festival committees pending full proceedings. A wave of noise rolled through the hall. Cameras exploded with flashes. Graham tried to speak, but his lawyer tugged his sleeve like a leash. And then the host added, like a stamp, the commission also supports petitions to void multiple exploitative agreements, including Naomi Carter's contract. Graham stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Not a girl, not a product, a threat. And suddenly, that little plate on the workshop wall made sense. M.H. wasn't decoration. It was a signature. In the hallway afterward, Graham chased us down. His face was different now, not confident, but slickly polite. Naomi, Maya, we can talk without cameras, he said. This can be handled. I went too far. He looked at me like he wanted to drag me back into the old script. Guilt, dependence, fear. I can restore your name, he said quickly. Give you a stage, compensation. Just don't turn this into a war. I felt a calm settle in me that I didn't recognize from my old life. You want a deal because you finally lost your leverage, I said. But I don't want to live on a leash anymore. Maya stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, and it carried steel. Graham, you built power on people staying silent out of fear. Today, fear got replaced with facts. She paused. And this isn't war. These are boundaries. Now, I work in an independent sound studio in Manchester. We build soundscapes for theater and documentary films. It's not glossy, it's honest. Maya doesn't hide calls anymore. She still gets tired sometimes, but now we laugh when I remember how scared I was to ask, what's a board call? And Graham? He's not a king. He's a name in a report, a warning for the next person. 3 things I learned. Status is rented. Dignity is owned. Anyone who forbids you to love is terrified you'll become free. Systems crack where you stop playing your role. Thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell if you want more true feeling first-person stories like this. And tell me in the comments what would you do in my place? Stay quiet for your career or stand on that stage and tell